Good evening. Welcome to the June 24th meeting of the Oak Grove Community Council. It's our general meeting, and we're very happy to see a crowd both online and in the room. So what we generally do is start with introductions, and we like to introduce any community members who are here for the first time. We like to introduce them first. So I'm going to.
Okay, my name is Patty J. Just recently realized that we don't live in Milwaukee. We're at Overlook at the Willamette, next to Willamette View, and found out we live here. So we're excited to be here.
Hi, I'm Sharon, same story. Although we've lived to Milwaukee for a long time.
Me too. So
Yeah, we should announce it, but anyway. Another house is an hour in the park.
We're better from now on.
I
No,
get it. Well, we're happy to be there, thank you.
Are there other first time,
Diana Schaefer, just lived down the road. I lived here for 7 years and thought it was time to come and see what was going on here. I'm also new, Liz Swenson.
and everybody else has been here?
I've never been here before.
Okay, I thought I didn't want to go on.
No, that's fine. My name's Aaron Quitta. I live over down by Rocky and McLaughlin. Been here most recently for like maybe 3 years, but I was actually born and raised. I went to like Jenny's Lodge and
Okay,
as a kid and all that.
and you're where, in which neighborhood? You're right.
Rocky and McLaughlin, right near the south border.
Okay. Okay, are there first time community members online? People that have never been to a meeting before?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, it's my first time also. I got invited by Joyce Johnson to attend this meeting. I'm also in Milwaukee. I'm in off of Rothie and Oakfield.
Oh,
Is there anything else I need to share?
no, that's lovely. We like to know where people, what part of
Yeah,
the.
I would have liked to come in person, but I couldn't due to an important appointment, but I'll try to come in person next time. So it's nice to meet you all.
All right, and I see Jim has his hand up.
Hi, my name's Jim Wolford. I moved into the area about 1.5 years ago, and I live up off of Nixon.
Okay. Welcome, we're glad to have you. Other newcomers? Well, then let's just go around the room and then we'll go around, with the folks that are online. We'll start with our board. My name is Valerie Chapman. I live a block, from the trolley trail on Evergreen Street.
I'm Daniel Larry, treasurer. I live like a block from her, just off of Park Avenue by the Max station.
Hi folks, my name is Ben Cheney, board member at large. I live up on Brick Street near Snowberry.
And
I'm Wayne Potter, I'm a board member at large. I live at Willamette View, been there for about 7 years.
okay, and Mark Elliott should be showing up and we'll make him wave his hands when he's our vice chair. It's not chair. Okay.
Bob O'Bannon, and I live on Glory down next to Roseville.
I'm Quinn, I live on Evergreen and 25th.
I'm Vanessa Dainslegal. I live off of Hill Road. I've been there for about 20 years.
I'm Rosa and I live on Woodland Way, and I'm also here to speak in general about affordable housing. And I'm Jennifer Hughes, I'm the county planning director, and Valerie asked me to be here tonight for the discussion.
And I'm Craig Van Valkenburg. I work at Willamette View.
And he's also been a regular member of our council. Okay, so Ben?
Yeah, Ben Cox. I live on near the intersection of River and Parkview.
Okay, and is that Cindy?
Cindy Brown, I live at Roseville.
And Dave? We can't hear you, Dave.
Dave Delbeck, I live at Roseville.
What's that?
With, very softly, you with very soft voice. What do you think he's there? He's Pam?
I'm Pam Horan. I live at Roseville. Having trouble with my audio, sorry.
Marilyn?
Hi, Marilyn Gottschall. I live at Roseville.
Ed?
Ed Gellenbeck, live at Roseville.
And Karen? Karen Oberding?
Hello, I'm Karen Oberding and I live on Mulberry Drive off River Road.
Welcome. Sue?
Sue Conahan at River Road and Parkview Circle.
Welcome. Larry?
Yeah, Larry Morandi and my wife here, Karen Pazuka. We live at Roseville.
Welcome. And yes,
We have, was iPad 9?
I don't know who iPad 9 is.
Oh, iPad 9 is Jean Coberly. I live at Roseville.
Okay, Jane Overly. Okay, welcome. And then that's Vanessa's.
Jenna down.
Jenna
bottom.
Smith. Yeah, Jenna Smith here. I live on Southeast Fair Oaks Drive. My property borders the Oak Grove Lake Oswego train trestle that burned a couple years ago, as well as the Oak Lodge Water District treatment plant. I'm at the very end of Fair Oaks Drive here.
Okay, welcome. All right, and Ben, do you want to introduce yourself since you, oh, you already did. It's our, okay. All right, let's begin with our officer reports. Treasurer?
Yeah, so since we last met, in fact, at the time we last met, we received $40 in cash donations, and if you wish to contribute, this is how you do that, or also, online. If you prefer that. We sent our check, that we voted on last time of $500 over to, the, historic downtown Oak Grove for the Oak Grove Festival, and also an additional 125 also for that, which is related to those expenses. Our current balance as of now is $1,625.17.
And maybe we should explain, we voted to authorize $500 to be sponsors of the Oak Grove Festival, and then learned that they changed the way they were doing things this year. It used to be if you were a $500 sponsor, your booth fee was included, and it is this year. It would be $1,000 sponsor for it to be included. So we figured that the community had wanted us to sponsor, so we went ahead and did that 125. If there's concern about us paying the extra 125, then we're willing to hear that, and we can do some other fundraising or whatever we want to do. But in order to get a space, we needed to come up with $125. Yeah. Okay. The minutes went out with the agenda, so which is our normal way of doing things. We sent it out online. Were there any corrections or additions or misspellings? I don't want to hear. If not, we'll let them stand as it came. And if you came in too late, you need to introduce yourself so we know who you are.
Oh, I'm Chip Janger and I live on Fair Oaks Avenue and, I haven't been around for a while. I used to be here all the time.
Nice to see you. All right. Well, we have been talking about development in our area, and there are different parts of the community that have different concerns. But we do see lots of development happening in the area coming down River Road. We see that. We know there were some people with concerns about property off of the trolley trail in Linwood, about how that was shaping up. And years ago, we had talked about what we called a Park Avenue Development Plan. And that was never approved by the Board of County Commissioners, so it's on a shelf someplace. But it was a way of trying to think about planning development in part of the beginning of the Oak Grove area, when you're not in an incorporated area, we're unincorporated. Then the rules and guidelines come from the county as a whole or the state, and there's nothing really local. So having a station area plan was something that we really worked hard on, and then it didn't go anywhere. But meanwhile, life goes on and development comes and people have questions. And so we thought we would kind of gather together and let people talk about how they're feeling about the Oak Grove area. And put some questions together to help us think about our conversation. What do you enjoy most about living in Oak Grove? Now that you know you live in an unincorporated area. And just for the record, you're not the only people. We hear that all the time from people. They have no idea they're in an unincorporated area. So I'm a surprise. Yes, and it is different. Planning is different. Which is why I'm glad Jennifer's here. She's gonna help us if we get all caught up on some things. So what do you like about living in Oak Grove? That's a way to thinking things, or maybe what's missing out here? What's missing in the Oak Grove area? Do you have concerns about or hopes for how development is done, how growth happens? We'll just open it up and say we will have a light conversation, and if people online please raise your hand. If you can't figure out how to raise a hand, wave your hand, and then will you help me keep track of what we're.
Can many people make comments on chat as well?
Yes. I can read those if people would prefer to do that. Yeah, that's a good idea as well. I see the chat.
So if you want to write a question in the chat, you can do that. If you don't want to speak your questions out or your thoughts.
Yeah, well, something that's a major part of the plan, the station plan, was we were trying to have a walkable neighborhood. And especially with trolley trail being main focus of the neighborhood. And there's almost no place to walk to. There's a lot of car dealerships, but there's no, there's no music venues. There's only a couple of bars. Just go get a drink somewhere. Restaurants, some restaurants, but there are restaurants mostly on the golf run, and it's very hard to get to on foot, even with all the internal. So that's what you're talking about. What's missing, I think, is more like local economic, not so much economic development as services, local services. I'm not sure how we would go about doing that, even if the plan had gone through. But
What kind of services have you
medical service, shoe repair, I think there are a couple of shoe repair places around. But
clinics, maybe you're talking about, like health clinics or?
maybe.
Restaurants at all? Is that part of what you were saying?
What's that?
Restaurants.
Yeah. Well, parks, right?
One reason I brought up restaurant is there's a little store in Milwaukee, it is Milwaukee, on Washington, called the Little Blue Store or something, and it's been around for ages. And I think originally was a grocery store, but then became like so many stores to make a living where they sold mostly alcohol, you know, and they got some sort of funding this is why I'm bringing this up, that the state offers. That if you do a no alcohol or no cigarettes, or when you sign some kind of commitment, it should not just be that kind of vendor. They'll give you money. And so they signed that agreement. So now they are a grocery store and sell Ethiopian food. There's an Ethiopian restaurant there. And so it's, and I think it's still called the Blue Store, I think. But anyway, I guess I just was wondering if something like we can talk to some of the owners of these little stores that sell alcohol and, you know, things that they have to, I guess, to be, to people living.
One of the big problems we have is you look at it, it looks like we do have a lot of people in the area. But if you look at it, it really isn't that big. You have the river on one side of the boundary, and you've got Bluefield Bridge on the other. And the people on the other side typically won't come across Bluefield Bridge. So you have a very narrow strip population. And yeah, McLaughlin's busy, but a lot of that is traffic transitioning to Oregon City, the work in Portland transition. So if you go talk to the store owners, the restaurant owners and stuff, a lot of them have struggled trying to stay open just because they don't have a business. You got people that aren't supporting. It's what it comes down to. It's, you know, we bitch and moan about getting good restaurants or grocery stores or whatever. And we just don't get the community support. I mean, that's why Food for Less left, you know, 20 years ago or whatever it was, they couldn't make it work with stuff. And I'm really glad to see Trader Joe's finally came in after bitching about them for ever to put a store in there. I'm just glad to see that they're so busy because I was a little worried, in all honesty, but yeah, they're drawing well. But we just have a hard time. You know, we used to have, before they put in the train, you had that little bar and restaurant, which was Da Vinci's, just the other side of the park. If you've never been in, yeah. Patrick and the Da Vinci's was outstanding, easily one of the best Italian restaurants in the area. And same thing, he and Sunai struggled to kind of keep going. And their prices were not bad, but the food was fantastic. They just didn't drag the population in, even though they're on a very busy street. So it's a problem. You want these places, but you have to go support them. You know, has anybody been into the Oak Grove Tavern that's recently reopened? Anybody been in there to see Jamie and the crowd yet?
Is that in downtown?
It's right here in downtown Oak Grove,
Yeah.
up by the school.
I haven't.
So meeting too.
Right.
It's great.
Yes, you had something you were gonna say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Dalton Boulevard is like a lot of other areas around the country. Those just built slip shop. It was the old 99, as we all know. It was built, there was no planning. People stuck things on there. Nobody had no zoning, no nothing. And it's just a big sort of conglomerate of what we don't know. Some of us have been working on this for 20 years. We had some architects that drew up some amazing little plans. When we worked on the light rail station 15 years ago to get that in, the idea is, see, if you look at the tracks, they aim right by the garage and they aim directly towards Oregon City. There ought to be, in Milwaukee, we have acres and acres and acres of hardscape along Milwaukee. There ought to be 3 nodes along there with housing. There ought to be apartments, garden apartments, beautiful apartments, green, not just on cement. There's a lot of good design that can be done. We're gonna need more housing, and that ought to be on Milwaukee rather than just have Milwaukee be what it is. Problem that this community has always had is that there's a lot of people who just have little businesses on Milwaukee and do not, along the Gulf, and do not want to see any change. Unfortunately, that's a big problem for our community, because our community needs to change, our community needs to grow. Those of us that don't want to see it just completely suburbanized, would rather see what's going on in some of the more interesting areas around this country with a node. Concord is becoming a node because of what's happening, because of the library, because Trader Joe's and all of those areas that are going in right there, grocery outlet and various things, restaurants want to come into this area, but there's nothing to support it because it's not gonna grow fast out in the green area, but there's no reason why we shouldn't have beautiful garden apartment community centers in 2 or 3 places along Gulfin Boulevard. I don't know what the planning department's thoughts are on things like that, but obviously, if we're gonna have a vibrant community in the future, we, like everywhere else, we have population problems that we can solve them with our acres and acres of hardscape. But it's gonna take, I don't know what it's gonna take in our community. The planning department maybe has some plans for something like this. They're open to those possibilities. We have a lot of plans that were drawn up by some great architects in the last 15 years to actually begin showing how that can be done. And bring population in and make it way greener than it is right now, so that it can have connecting green to our beautiful surrounding areas, which we'd like to preserve as much as we can, so that they don't get just completely run over and suburbanized, but we can still bring in people, have businesses, have new businesses. Gulfin Boulevard can be a great place, but it's gonna take, I don't know what it's gonna take, because I'm not as young as I used to be, and I don't have the energy that I used to have. And I don't know what the county's doing about it, but we'd sure like to figure out something.
Yeah, you had asked, what we like about her group, and I do want to say that, one of the reasons that I moved here from the Southwood Westmoreland area was because of large lots, the lower taxes, and the hope that the McLaughlin corridor would at some point be redeveloped so that we really did have a more inviting, pedestrian accessible and vibrant community with housing services, mixed incomes, diversity of communities. And I hope that in when did the light bill come in? Was it 2013? Yeah, that perhaps Clackamas County would move to really redevelop McLaughlin, but that has failed to happen. I've worked on various task forces, been involved in various focus groups. I know personally of maybe a handful of developers who've attempted to purchase land along McLaughlin to redevelop it to mixed use housing, only to really see it fail because the zoning doesn't exist for it. And so that's happening there. And then I'm also a broker, and I'm talking to a lot of folks who ask me all the time to help them find communities where they can just not rely on their car so much and just walk everywhere for services. Yeah. And, and it's one of the things that I think we really need are those main streets all over. And those little, commercial hubs everywhere in every neighborhood so that everybody can really just not rely on their cars, go to those areas go to their own main street and really enjoy just the community and build the community. So it's one of the reasons I came out to Oak Grove, my husband and I, a long time ago now. And we're still waiting for some change, but it doesn't seem to be happening. And we're kind of at the point now where we're probably gonna leave the area because we do want to get back to it. We had hoped for that type of community, but we're probably gonna move to a community where we can really just get out of our car and have more accessible, just be more accessible to services, especially as we get older. And so I just wanted to add that. And again, just a disclosure, I am a long-time affordable housing advocate. I have served on the Roseville board before with the hope of urging them to consider some affordable housing development for seniors or their workforce. Yeah. But unfortunately, that never evolved either. So there's some resistance to this interest in getting more mixed use housing, more main streets developed, more pedestrian friendly developments. And it's really difficult for me to really figure out, because there's been so much effort put into it. As you said, there's been all of these planning, and nothing has really evolved from that. And where I really feel like, and I'm kind of at the point where I'm also at my age where I just really need to put it out there, honestly, that it feels like a lot of lip service from the county around, trying to move these issues forward, not only from the county, but also from the county commissioners. And I know they have a variety of constituents to serve, and there's gonna be a diversity of opinion. I've been in lots of meetings where there's a diversity of opinion. But, we still have a really strong need for affordable housing. And I do want to encourage that everybody to be educated. I'm going to have to leave early, and that's why I really just want to get this out for everybody to consider. One of the sources that I rely on a lot is the National Coalition of Low-Income Housing. Anybody can go onto their website and find out how dire the situation is around housing, not only in Oregon and our county and metro area, but also just across the nation. And if you want to get deep into the weeds, you can go to the Oregon Housing and Community Services. They have dashboards of a lot of data. And then the Oregon Department of Administrative Services has a Oregon Housing Needs Analysis. And this is where you can really do a deep dive into just how dire the situation is around affordable housing. And very recently, the Oregon Housing and Community Services decided to expand the program for senior housing, because they are hearing from so many low-income seniors on fixed incomes that there is a severe shortage of housing for lower income seniors. Those are the people who are earning extremely low income, who are earning less than 30% of the area median income for a household size of about 2.5. That's less than 35,000 a year. And so we're running into a huge problem here with affordable housing in general, and seniors are really in dire need of lower cost housing. And it's not just seniors, but people with disability, and also the working folks who are just earning minimum wage. So I do want to just really encourage people to really get educated around this issue of affordable housing in our community. And by the way, there is an actual spreadsheet here that you can print out as a PDF, and they give you data by your congressional district. So you can actually go to Congressional District 5 on the National Low Income Housing Institute, and you can get more data about how dire the situation is here around affordable housing. So I do want to just give you guys a lot to chew on, and express a little bit of my frustration, because it really, again, I've been working on this for years as an advocate for affordable housing, and I just feel like we're really not getting very far on this issue of mixed use housing, pedestrian friendly accessibility, and affordable housing for those with the lowest incomes.
Greg, you had something you wanted to say, and I also see that Cindy Brown's hand.
We have Janet was up online.
She was up there first.
Cindy, you want to?
We had Janet was the first hand up. Been up for a while.
Jenna?
Hi, my name's Jenna, and I wanted to just say I've been seeing a lot of development around my property between, the Rose Villa, which I think they've been doing a beautiful job, and the Oak Lodge water treatment plant. But what I'm not seeing is any focus towards, good accessibility. There's been quite a bit of increase in traffic along Bluff Road, and even all the way down to my property next to the railroad bridge, and at River Villa Park, all up and down the street. And it's just, I don't think that, I feel like there's a lack of safety-minded approach in some of this. And I'm also very concerned with the fact that, I've been raising concerns with safety around public access and the infrastructure surrounding me with the Oak Grove Lake Oswego train bridge and the water treatment plant that has, and my property has been really badly damaged throughout, this entire time too, where I've not been able to I'm so sorry. I'm stumbling through. I have a disability. I have a hard time keeping my thoughts straight. But I saw the last lady talking about affordable housing. I have rental on my property. I'm disabled. I haven't been able to, keep renters on my property because of all of the incidents happening around me. I don't see anything happening to protect the infrastructure that we already have in place that's very valuable here. Nothing's been done to clean up after the Oak Grove, the train bridge fire where Willamette Creek runs year round underneath the train bridge and down to Fesson Bar at Rivervilla Park into the river. There's contaminants all over the place. And I would just like to see in the conversation being around development that, that we're looking at safety, accessibility, and protection of what we have in place already. I don't know. Yeah, that's about where I'm at right now to be able to share.
Thank you. Good thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cindy, did you?
Are there any other hands up?
Yeah. Cindy? If you're talking, we can't hear you.
Wait, which Cindy?
No, who's up in the corner? No, wasn't Cindy. Okay.
That was Janet Smith.
Just Jen, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
that's
that's
her face. Okay, sorry, Cindy. Great.
Well, I can tackle a little bit of what you're talking about because I served on the Park Avenue committee with Valerie and actually quite a large group of folks. Unfortunately, it was during COVID, but I think we managed to bring a plan together that made a lot of sense for that development. It was between Park and Cortland. And it had housing, it had retail, it had office space, it had walkability, restaurants, family-friendly areas, and so forth. And I'm going to say, even if Jennifer wasn't here, I would say it's not the county's issue, it's the community's issue.
That's true.
And unfortunately, at the end of the road, we had 4 people that turned it upside down, and none of them actually lived in the area. That was the problem that we ran into, in my opinion. It was a good plan. People worked hard at it. We had open sessions over at the grade school. A lot of interest in everything you're talking about, and whatever that was, the second or third time of this Park Avenue development plan was efforted. And at the end of the day, it was a couple of voices that happened to sway the decision. We didn't even get to the county to go through the zoning discussion because, we knew there were steps we had to take. We just needed to coalesce a vision and then be able to express that vision to the county and then work with them in how they can best facilitate that. Because there's a lot of issues. I mean, you're all talking about it. You got property owners, you got car dealerships, you got, the trailer court that's there. You've got all these different interests, and you're really talking about trying to get people to be willing to transition those properties into that vision. So it would take years to do it, but you need something to get it started. We really thought we were at a point where we had enough kind of wood behind the whatever, to get that momentum going and just learn like that.
What were the reasons for not liking it?
One had to do with property rights. Another one didn't want to see the car dealerships go away. I think somebody else just didn't like
No change.
change.
They don't like change.
Yeah. Well, and part of it too, people have interests in certain things along that stretch, and you get kind of a protective mentality.
Yeah.
Don't change what I have. And that was part of it. So,
Yeah, I believe it's called Not in My Backyard, just there.
Yeah. I just, for people who weren't around at the time we worked the Park Avenue project, I just say, if you were to go online, for example, and look at the light rail stations in the Portland metro area, including all the way out here. Ours is the only one without a stationary plan.
Yeah.
The only one. So the stationary plan was, like Craig said, it was a first step to change zoning to permit different uses. And if it had passed, if the board, the county commissioners had been willing, they would have passed it on to the planning department, which has its own open, involvement and whatnot. So we couldn't even get it to that far.
Right. But I mean, you said it, political will. I mean, you said it, political will. There is a lack of political will to really, work with the community on change and also educate the community on why we do need to move forward with, a more pedestrian friendly, accessible, affordable, mixed use development along, that portion of the corridor. And I think that's where the county really needs to shift to really educating the community and hopefully, encouraging them to, going from a not in my backyard to a yes in my backyard. Of course, we're always gonna have to risk your opinion. We're always gonna have to negotiate development change, but to no change, I don't think is the solution.
Well, and I wanted to this is part of my reflection when I see it. So if we don't have a plan, does not mean that there won't be development. It just means that it won't be done with a plan in mind. As Chip said, it'd be whatever, comes up, right? And
It's difficult to have development if you have people on the council. One person like Paul just doesn't want to do it, period. Over, doesn't stop it. That's just the reality. People don't want to talk about it, but that's the reality. And I was going to talk about it, but that's the problem. The problem is people work really hard on that plan. People have worked hard on several plans, and then it just gets shut down because there's a few people that don't want to see change, and they have a strong representation.
Well, and so
on our
it's important
governing body.
that other people also, we start talking about it and thinking, to remember that since the state has new regulations around housing and density, and we're starting to hear people that feel concerned, let's put it that way, that there might be infill, right? We need housing. Housing is a crisis, so we do need housing. And if we start working together as a community, maybe we can get a plan as opposed to helter skelter or whatever else.
I think there's a way forward. I think there was a lot of learning from that last effort. A lot of takeaways that, if you went back and put your heads together, you could figure out a way to kind of work through it. But it's going to take a lot of support and I'll say perseverance to work through it, because that's what has to happen. And it's the vision, it's the plan that you need to bring people along and educate them, which, I think we try pretty hard with that, because you're going to need people to buy into it and support it. It's not going to happen on its own. And you got to line up some early, I'll call it investors, people willing to step up and go along with it to show that there is interest in doing it. So you can't wait for the county to do their thing and go, oh, okay, well, now let's go find development. You have to bring that along in the process and demonstrate to people that there is interest in this, whether it's housing, hotels, retail, you name it. So.
I think on what you're about, Craig, is a lot of our problem with being able to get that stuff through is this. And like the other light rail stations have plans. Well, I don't think there's any of the other ones that are in unincorporated areas. And so our structure is a little bit more decentralized, and the structure is us,
right?
In this meeting. So that's the problem is, why is it we don't have 75 people in this room? I mean, just can't get people to get excited. So my 2 cents. But I wanted to tag team on with Jenna. I totally agree with you, Jenna. You're right there. The safety in the neighborhood has really deteriorated in the last probably 10, 15 years. And the really nice thing is that it's going to get worse here in the next little bit. So And it's not so much Willamette View. You guys are doing pretty good. And I mean, you're up on McLaughlin's already a busy, crazy street anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got some other development that's getting ready to get started that's gonna wreck us. So when we moved in 40 something years ago, Lori was so nice and quiet. There was, other than the 20 people at the sewer plant that went by twice a day, we probably didn't have another 20 or 30 cars all day long. And now you've got to be really careful walking around Lori out there, walking your dog everywhere. And a lot of your Roseville residents out walking your dogs. Your neighbors are a little scared out there going by that little tiny street, 40, 45 miles an hour, just willy-nilly. And it's, there's a lot more coming to Bluff, trust me. So it's going to be exciting.
Well, and I think to your point, and Jones, I mean, one of the issues when we had folks from the county come and talk about the complete street plan on Courtney, which we're really glad is happening, but it's ending at River Road. And there's all of this development going on and activity going from River Road.
And not so much just that, how many times have I brought up to them, they need to go 2 more blocks down to Fair Oaks in that corner. You know, not past that corner's dead.
There's some other project that's happening on the corner of, is it Schroeder and Courtney? There's, or is it, you know, it's, I think it maybe it's part of Roseville that there's.
They took that house down and they're supposedly, from what I heard the other day, that they are going to be putting in another office or something in there. That, so they're gonna have to get that rezoned for office space. As far as I know, it's still a residential lot.
But what it is it's more activity on that street. And anybody who goes down there knows that little curve as you go around to Fair Oaks. Kind of dangerous. And there's, you know, and I guess just to throw out, just to help us remember, and part of the issue is that we're an urban area in an unincorporated space. So we're urban because of the way, the density that we have. And our needs, but it's unincorporated, so pushing it. Jennifer, I want you to have, you know, I don't want you to feel like you're here so that you can complain. And I just want to say my experience in working with the Park Avenue project, where there were wonderful people, plus I worked with at the county and Karen, its name comes to my mind. Yeah, it comes.
Yeah. We can have
Ellen Walker.
to hear from Jennifer. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I want her to be able to talk. I just don't want her to feel like she's here just.
I mean, you guys are calling in the middle, I know, but we'd love to hear, as a planning department, what can happen to our mercantile area. That's the only thing we got, is off the boulevard.
Yeah. I hardly know where to begin. That was a lot. I guess I'll start by saying, I do think there are misconceptions about the zoning on McLaughlin and what it allows. And I think even people who are considering developing out there maybe hear that it's general commercial and just sort of assume and look and probably just drive up McLaughlin and assume this is what, you know. So the reality is McLaughlin, it allows more housing than it used to. I mean, the county upzoned all of our C3 zones. It's probably been 5 or 6 years ago now. It may not be what the market need, you know, it may not be high enough. But it did go from what had been 25 units an acre to 60 units an acre. And we've seen nothing as a result of that in terms of actual development. So part of the question is we can change the zoning and try to, you know, make sites available in theory, but what we don't do at planning departments develop things. So, you know, that and maybe 60 is not enough. Maybe the market says it needs to be 80 or 100 or, you know, I don't know, to make the sort of pro forma work out. But we're just not seeing housing despite the fact that the zoning has changed. And, you know, I think there's probably multiple reasons for that. There's no urban renewal, which has tended to be, I'm not an urban renewal expert, but that has tended to be a tool that has worked in other jurisdictions. It has worked in the past for the county in different locations. We don't have that anymore. And I'm not here to opine on whether that's good or bad, just to say that that's a tool we don't have. the ownerships along the Rockland, I understand, like who owns the property, at least at the Park Avenue plan stage, was maybe a little unusual. A lot, as I understand it, fair number of kind of longtime owners that maybe are renting or leasing to, say, car dealerships or whatever, and it's a pretty good stream of income, and maybe they're not interested really in changing that at this point, you know? So that could be part of the issue. Parcelization, you know, do you have to aggregate sites to make it happen? There's a little bit of who's gonna be first. Because it is an area that, as we described, has some challenges, and is the market really there? And if you're the first person to go in and invest money and do something that's different, that looks like what you might see in some of these other neighborhoods that you're talking about, there's risk, you know, as an investor, in being the first person to do that. So I think we feel like it's all of the, you know, all of those things are probably playing a part. Certainly as a planner, and certainly Karen, who worked on the Park Avenue plan, and other people in my office would love to see all the things that you're talking about. I mean, I would like to live in an area like that. We're all thinking as we're aging, hey, let's, you know, we want to go for a walk and go have coffee and go, you know, go to a park and go to a restaurant, and have our kids walk to school or our grandkids or whatnot. But it's challenging because at the same time, I'm still in my car every day. So we're all part, you know, we want it to be, but we're all part of the problem that exists now too. You know, who's gonna be the first one? You know, I hear you saying we want more of these things. We know we need housing, we know we need local businesses, but we don't like the traffic. And guess what? That all kind of goes together. We're not really seeing that most people yet in Clackamas County are willing to live in a place with no car. Because again, it's what comes first. Do you give up your car first and hope the businesses come, or do the businesses come and then you give up your car and get in this cycle of how do you make that come together? So I know that it sounds like really hopeless or something, but I think those are the issues. I don't know, as far as like the plan itself, my recollection is similar to Craig's. There was a group of, I'll describe it as primarily business type interests maybe, that were really concerned, not so much about what we were proposing to allow, but what we were proposing to prohibit. So it was really that change to say that in the C3 zone on the Laughlin, we were not gonna allow auto-oriented uses anymore. You're not gonna allow auto-oriented uses. So for instance, new car lots would not have been allowed.
But the old ones were.
The old ones are gonna be allowed.
Everything was grandfathered.
Yes.
It was only a point of sale.
Totally
You
reasonable.
know, it would have been protected, but
Totally reasonable.
But the property, there were concerns on the part of whether it was, you know, certain property owners or board members at the time or whatnot, that was not sufficient, that they didn't want to become what we call a non-conforming use, that potentially would make it harder for them to sell their property or harder for them to obtain financing or whatnot. So I think there's a lot of fear about that. And then I will say counties are more restricted than cities in terms of zoning non-conforming uses sort of out of existence. Cities are able to kind of force uses to come to conformity, for one of a better term, a little bit easier. They can restrict like how much you can add on or change, or if there's damage to the property, can you replace whatever. Counties under state law, you know, generally those uses out on the Laughlin, even if we said no more, they're non-conforming, would be able to go on for decades and decades and decades and potentially change and grow. And, you know, so there is really quite a bit of protection, but I think that maybe they didn't believe that. And I also think that that's actually one of the reasons it doesn't change over faster, because we're not able to sort of push people towards conformity over time. There's some structural challenges. And to kind of to your point that we're urban, but we're unincorporated, creates complexity. The state is definitely treating unincorporated Clackamas County and Washington County like a city for purposes of all of these new housing requirements. The middle housing, you know, we are as a local community losing a lot of control in terms of what we are required to allow and what we are allowed to apply in terms of design standards or development standards. That's largely been taken over by the state when it comes to housing. And yet at the same time, we're not a city, so we don't have the same level of funding for planning services, for parks, for some of the local, you know, sort of more local level services that you will see in some of some of the cities in the area. So it creates some structural challenges.
I have a question. Why is Oak Grove unincorporated?
Those time you had.
How much time do you have?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure there's people here who can speak more to efforts. There have been efforts, at least discussions and studies and things about incorporation over time.
Yeah.
And I don't live in the area, but I would suspect that taxes are a primary reason. You know, that it just costs more to have a city, and people generally don't want their tax rates to go up, so that can be an issue.
Two questions. One of them, you were talking about the redevelopment. So city of Milwaukee has got all kinds of brand new apartments all over the place. I don't know how many of them are low income. I assume the ones over by the hospital are the low income ones, housing. I assume that's all low income. Has anybody seen the numbers on the business effects for Milwaukee for all of those new residents?
I have not, I don't know.
The reason I'm asking is I've been in Fresno a couple of times, and yeah, it's kind of a zoo. Seems like a lot of the people who are there are from, you know, Westmoreland or Sellwood, they're from outside of the area because it's easier than going to downtown. But I look around and I'm down there a little bit, know a few of the people. Seems like business is still very slow down on Main Street in Milwaukee.
I would disagree with that.
I think so.
Oh, yeah, we're kind of trying all the time.
Yeah, I always ask them, because it used to be whenever a business opened, they close in one year or something. So a couple have opened in the past year.
There's a bunch working on opening
And
right now.
so I always ask, oh, what's happening here? How are you doing? And they're like, oh, we're doing great.
The Freeman's actually
Yeah.
busy
Oh,
all
they're
the
crazy.
time.
Yeah.
And Keeper Coffee.
Yeah, good, good harvest, because they're always busy.
Yeah, so it's exciting.
Ovation is doing pretty well.
Yeah, so I think it is.
And Oak Grove Brewery,
Yeah.
or Oak Union Brewing is moving in on Main Street, which is, you have the Oak Union place right here, or? Yeah.
The other question is you were talking about, not getting any money from the state. Are you getting any help from our elected officials on, getting some of the stuff straightened out?
I mean, in terms of like planning efforts?
Yeah, planning or just development. I mean, they put all these requirements on
Oh,
our
I see.
community for housing and stuff, but have they been sitting around listening to your concerns or anything that's going on?
I think the Board of County Commissioners, and I cannot speak officially on their behalf, obviously, but the general tone of the interactions we've had have been that they're concerned about the loss of local control.
Right.
As I think are many cities and counties, with this feeling that the state is, you know, sort of telling us now, and it is a lot of one size fits all. And they're not gonna say there's no good policies for it. They are trying to address the housing crisis. That is the reason. I think we don't always agree that.
Part of my background is being in here, but I'm also the community council's representative to the North Clackamas Conservative Watersheds Council. So I have meetings with them, and so we have various department heads and the parks districts and all kinds of folks come and talk to us. And one of the things I keep hearing from everybody, whether it's the sewer department, the parks departments, or Clackamas County Department of Transportation, is we keep getting all this stuff, but we're not seeing any money coming through.
Yeah, there's
Seems like
definitely a lot of.
everybody's crying blues about not any funding, but yet
Right.
our state budget is doubled in the last 7 years. I'm like, where's all the money?
I mean, there's definitely what I guess
So
our word would call
down 45 miles south.
Yeah, definitely unfunded mandates. And at the planning department, the biggest issue is just the kind of cost in terms of, like, we're not getting any more staffing, right? So we're just essentially having to use our staff time to focus on implementing these changes to state law. And what's particularly difficult is that it's become that every session of the legislature, there's new things, and sometimes they're undoing what they did a year or two before or changing it, you know, so it's very hard to keep up. And a lot of local government staff are saying the same thing. Like, it's a full-time job just trying to understand what the rules are. And it's just the silly stuff like, well, we have to change our application forms, and we have to rewrite our code, and we have to educate our staff, and we have to, you know, and no, there's no money for real. And there are some state level grants for some of the work, but it's essentially, for the most part, to hire consultants to kind of help them draft things, but there's really no ongoing true source of.
And that's what I'm trying to get a handle on is I keep seeing all this really fun stuff, these great ideas. It's like,
Yeah.
There's no funding, there's no follow through. And, you know, when I've talked to our reps, when we stumble into them, there seems to be no clue. So as far as any kind of plan or any kind of implementation or anything, so I'm just trying to figure it out for myself,
Yeah.
figure out where the sticking point is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to exactly answer that.
Yeah, kind of sort of two parallel questions. I, you know, appreciate the thing you mentioned about sort of development itself is not really the county's job. But I'm curious how the county encourages development or supports developers, private, you know, developers. So I'm sort of thinking, you know, I'm also someone who moved in the last 10 years from Portland and thinking about like Prosper Portland, and there are a lot of sort of public-private partnerships that are focused on urban development and these kind of things. Does something like that exist, you know, at the county level? And you know, could it?
Right.
Or is it kind of inherently not really an option? And then the second one, I'll just tee up because getting your mind center.
Yeah.
Like hamlets and villages, does that have any impact on the planning process and the you know, sort of workflow that are happening? Yeah.
Okay, so the first one, does the county, I mean, the county, not my department per se, not the planning department, but the county certainly does have some elements where it is involved in some level of public-private partnership or funding of certain types of development, but it's, you know, we have an economic development department that does have access to certain state funding that does have provide grants, there have been various, again, I can't speak to the details, but they will provide certain grants for businesses for certain purposes, and those programs have, you know, have changed over time, but yes, there's some of that, there's some ability to help in terms of trying to attract new business or trying to help retain the businesses we have to grow, you know, to grow sort of family wage jobs, that kind of thing. So there's that. We have a housing authority. So the county certainly has been involved in helping to develop the various affordable housing projects from the various metro funding, right? There was the affordable housing bond and then the housing services funding. And so we're involved in that. So the county has built, I believe, I think we were able to do something like 800 units of affordable housing that we were involved in, but that none of them were unincorporated. There's one in Oregon City, one in Happy Valley, and the redevelopment that's going on in Milwaukee, I think it's the hillside. So yes, we're involved, but there isn't any arm that is sort of doing the kind of thing you're discussing where it's some kind of a public-private partnership, say like at the light rail station, or to encourage that sort of urbanization, or, you know, it's happening under the auspices of either economic development for jobs or affordable housing for the most part. And then hamlets and villages. So the hamlets and villages program that's been around for about 20 years. In fact, I just saw a flyer today that the Beaver Creek Hamlet is about to celebrate their 20th anniversary, and they were the first hamlet. And it was, as I understand it, designed as a way to help certain unincorporated areas have more of a voice in their government and to build a sense of community. They are not governing in the sense of like having any actual like authority to change regulations or anything like that. They don't. The villages technically, I think, have the ability to levy some sort of tax, maybe, but we don't have any villages at this point. Hamlets don't do that. So their involvement in the planning process, they don't always have to be this, but some of them are their community planning organization for their area, the same way Oak Grove Community Council is, so they would again be receiving notices like you do, being able to comment, being able to appeal without, paying a fee, those kinds of things. But essentially, it's an advocacy type of a role, the same way that Oak Grove Community Council would have for, advocating for change.
So back to I think Valerie's talking about dreams and visions, and someone was talking about main streets. On that, I think we have two that we can naturally have. One, Oak Grove Boulevard, right? It's already like 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. You already have parking there. You got the trolley trail goes straight through. Perfect place to develop. It could look a lot like Milwaukee's Main Street, I think, which is great and a place that I often go. I see no reason we can't do the same. And then the other is Max Station, right? Where everyone arrives, Portland, whenever people come enter Oak Grove there, it has parking garage that's free, and it has a beautiful giant plaza that nothing ever happens at. There's lights, there's sculptures, there's seating, I'm pretty sure there's electricity. Right, what's to stop us from having food carts like Milwaukee does, what's to stop us from having performances, things like that. So I think that's, if we focus our efforts on a couple of places, we might have some more success. I think there's been a lot of different, there's a stretch of McLaughlin or some other thing, but if we focus on a couple of specific places first, and I know that was already kind of done with Park Avenue, but maybe we should revisit that. You know, then maybe we'll have some progress. Maybe we even involve Trimax, 'cause that property is, as far as I know, Trimax property actually, but there's a big open space there. We should start looking at something.
So, people that haven't had a chance to jump into the conversation, have ideas or thoughts that you wanna share?
I'd like some more restaurants. I would like some more restaurants.
Food carts even.
Or food carts, yeah.
I know that when we were working on the Park Avenue plan, and we had all these consultants that, you know, did a lot of educating with those of us that worked on that. And, you know, one of the things they were talking about is like, you know, you can change the zoning, or the zoning can be there. But then people have, you know, they have to want to be there. And what we were trying to do was to create a place that, where people would want to live. So around the place where you build housing, you want to have it pedestrian friendly. That was the whole goal. So like you said, well, they could build it, and, you know, they could build it anyway, but why would you do that to people? Why would, who'd want to live in, I don't know, how many here right now would like to live in an apartment right on McLaughlin Boulevard?
I live in the one right now.
Oh, you didn't, where at?
Rocky McLaughlin, like, there's an apartment building, there's 2 mobile home parks, like, I live there.
Are you talking about Oak Grove Apartments?
No, he's further down.
That's Rocky and McLaughlin, it's right off, by Rex Putnam.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my son's live there.
So how's the walkability?
Well, I work in Southwood. Most of the time I come down here and then I hit the Black Pantry, or, you know, there's like 5 restaurants within a block of me. If I ever want to get anything to eat, if I want to go shopping, I take the 33 up to, you know, Walmart or any of the other grocery stores right up there. I have fun time. I don't own a car. Like,
Yeah,
I got here by catching the 33 and getting off, you know, not that far away, but
Yeah.
the library's right there too, the bank.
Okay, well, and what we want to know is where people feel good about it. I mean, you know, where they don't feel like living yet. Do you have sidewalks?
Yeah.
There. Some of that out here, no sidewalks. And, you know, so putting those kind of things in and making it so people feel safe and the noise isn't too much. I mean, there's a lot of issues around it.
It's always gonna be noisy on my block. As long as it's a 4-lane type thing, it's gonna be loud.
Well, we did drop the.
I do think that really great, the transit, just that it is a really rich, well, at the transit corridor, and it's a great corridor for transit, because it's all one sort of long thing between 2 regional destinations. And the 33 is one of the busiest lines in the transit system. And, you know, another advantage of a sort of planning approach would be, you know, trying to really bring to life those nodes where the transit happens, yeah.
And I think that was the original McLaughlin area plan, which Park Avenue was a subset out of that. Park Avenue was an attempt to be the first node. And the McLaughlin area plan had nodes, I think there was one at, you know, Oakville Boulevard, there was one down at there were 3 at Courtney, yeah, Courtney. I think it wasn't, I don't think Courtney was one, it was a skip, there was Park and it was down to Oak, and then it went down another like Concord and. Okay. As it went down, so they weren't stacked, so that, you know, there would be like protected areas where people could walk and feel safe, and there would be apartments and whatnot. Then there was space in between for other kinds of things. And then another node, I mean, that was the idea. And, And that was some of the planning effort that had been done to try to, you know, jumpstart our area in a positive way. Meanwhile, you know, there's lots of stuff, you know, there's houses going down on River Road and, you know, and there's, but that kind of housing. I mean, you know, Roseville and Willamette View have huge communities of people who are our neighbors. That housing is not necessarily what we would call affordable housing. However, there are people who work there, you know, and commute. So workforce housing, would be a good thing as we're building up these communities. We also need the, you know, obviously the balance.
Right, you don't want people just coming down, commuting to,
Right.
Yeah.
So that you have I mean, if I were to express one thing that I appreciate about our road is its variety. And it's becoming more diverse than it used to be, ethnically diverse, but you know, it's economically diverse. And there's something wonderful about that too, that it's not all, you know.
It's much wider range of ages too. When I moved here 45 years ago, all of my neighbors were 80 years old, all of them. And now it's flipped and I'm not being back. Well, actually, so you see it. Find out what's
Yeah, so I mean, there's all of these factors, and I guess the point is, you know, can we talk about it? Can we think about moving forward together and moving everybody in? So were there any comments or anything from people online that wanted to join into our conversation? They've been kind of quiet up there.
You know, the topic of workforce housing, is a constant. So, you know, for us as an employer, I've got 300 plus employees. And then you add Roseville next door, you've got probably close to 500 people that work in that close proximity. And we have looked at workforce housing a number of times over the years. You know, we have property, is that the right thing to develop? We go buy some property, develop it. And it's a very challenging path to navigate, because I can develop and I can finance, but I actually can't own workforce housing for my own employees. Those are all state regulations. So what do? I gotta find somebody to partner with. I've got to figure it out, because in the employment laws, as an employer, I can't provide housing to an employee, because if part of my objective is to have people come to work for me because I can provide housing, if they quit, leave, or get discharged, I can't affect them to move out. Because once, you know, people have a home, they have a home. So you've got this layer of laws that kind of work against the vision of creating workforce housing who, as an employer, needs that housing. So we deal with this all the time with where our staff lives, as far out as Troutdale, or you know, some people south of Oregon City or wherever, and the issue is then they're commuting, right? So now you're clogging the roads, using parking, it's costing people. But if I could build a 50-unit apartment that I could have workforce housing, we'd do it in a heartbeat. So
I think one thing, when I was thinking, when everybody was talking about that, was not that you know, the different places where they were, the employer would own their housing. But then you'd be in a community that would have a diversity of prices, you know, for what housing costs.
Sure.
So that they would have housing that's cheap enough that people who work at that facility could afford it. And it would be totally not owned by them, I mean, by you, by your company, but it would be owned by whatever, some other developer, but priced such a way that they could afford it on the wages that they earn.
So let me paint a picture just on what you said. All right. So in the state of Oregon, if you're a owner of rental property, there's guidelines and restrictions on how much your rent can go up each year.
Right.
Okay. In some analysis that actually works against everybody. Because if you say to a real estate owner, a property owner, you can only raise your rent 8% a year or 10% a year, what do you think they're gonna do?
Raise it that amount.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to having enough development of housing to create competition to neutralize the
Right,
impact
so they
of the
would
rent.
actually, right, convert it.
Prices. Yeah, the market drives the pricing, not the state's ceiling on how much you can raise your rents. Because, that is what happens. I have talked to a number of people who are in the rental real estate market. And I've asked them, if you're limited to 8% or CPI plus whatever, what do you do? They just told me I can get an 8% bump. They're bailing.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
actually I've rented for a while now and they don't do that every year for our rent, and that's lucky.
Right.
But, and I also know people that have rented in many other states and where they don't have those limits. And the price of rental is still crazy, it's even higher.
Sure.
So I'm not completely sure that that's true. But maybe, I don't know.
Check it out.
Yeah, it's all market thing. It's like sugar or tomatoes or anything else. It's whatever the market will pay for it. What's building permit cost in the county these days? I know the system development fees are all over the board, but.
I don't know what a building permit costs. I mean, it's valuation, right? So it's based on it. Yeah, and I don't know what it is.
Rough guess, average house.
I don't, I'm sorry, I actually don't know.
Okay.
Land use permits.
Part of the problem is that you're paying a fortune for permits, which, it is what it is. But the other thing is with the shortage of developable land around most of these lots out here, it's all R10. So like my lot, I've got a crummy little 1950s house. When I'm on a lot that's 80 by 140, I'm on a third of an acre.
Wow.
And so my backyard's 110 feet deep, as is my neighbors, which is great. But come in and try to buy one of those things, the house is worth 150, 180 grand, but the lot's worth $300,000. And so you go down anywhere down in here, and there are some pieces of property, there's some property right behind this here. There's 2 acres, 3 acres that's kind of stuffed in. Yeah, you come in and buy that stuff, it's 400 grand.
But do they allow housing? Cause I know the house I lived in a house, owned a house on 35th. It was a flag lot, so it was a house, and then there were 2 other houses built behind it. And so it's the same kind of thing, a little old house that was 100 years old.
Yeah.
On an acre lot, and they go to other houses in April.
It's going on all over the place. What's great is Greg Winston that lives he's a block down the way, put in an ADU like 2 years ago, or 3 years ago.
Okay.
And yeah, he had no problem at all renting that place. It looks pretty nice. But yeah, we've got flag lot stuff going on like crazy.
I thought that could be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it has been, they're developing, but it's very expensive to put in.
To put in a flag lot, I don't know, I didn't.
Well, I want to thank people for participating in the conversation. And thank Craig and Jennifer for being here, and I'll send Rose a note for also for adding your wisdom into our conversation. And maybe we'll, as we go forward as a community, people think about things they might want to get involved in, and we'll thinking. So thank you for being with us and for having us.
I will put in one little plug that we are gonna be doing quite a bit of work on our zoning code, we hope, over the next 18 months. So I think you'll be hearing from Martha Fritzie, who's gonna lead that project, and with Karen Murray is overseeing it as well, so you may hear from them. So maybe we'll have a chance to come back and talk about that, but I think what will be, it's not a plan specific for this neighborhood, but it is looking at our development standards and trying to make them
easier to understand, which then means they will be easier to actually make people follow, because we'll know what they mean and everybody else will know what they mean. And so the important thing to keep in mind, I guess, is if you are seeing that there are barriers, you know, you're hearing from some developer, I wanted to do this on Oak Grove Boulevard and I can't because there's this standard that doesn't make any sense. Those are the kinds of things that we want to be thinking about in terms of what are we preventing development that you want to see in your community? Is that being prevented by our zoning code? Because that's much easier to fix than the going out and telling people they can't do something they can currently do. That's harder. It's not that we can't, but it's hard. Sorry.
Is there something we can do to help you guys out as far as there's something you're looking for that, gosh, it would be nice if these community groups.
I mean, eventually there might be an ask. We'll be doing some outreach, but I don't think it's going to start in earnest until beginning of 2027. So, yeah, but feedback's always a good thing. And if you hear these little anecdotes that we don't hear, you know, because you're in the community, that's helpful.
And I think our land use group has been more than a little bit active on some stuff, so.
For sure.
Compared to what it was when I joined it, a long time ago. It was pretty quiet. It's not so quiet anymore.
Yeah.
As Joseph said, we don't have many things that we can comment on anymore. This seems to change with the application.
Well, it was Mike McAllister, the tall guy.
Yeah.
Used to come visit with us all the time, and we had a very good relationship with them. Talked a lot, and yeah, he was very good about helping out and getting some stuff going. He was very motivated. Yeah, we've gone from not having a comment about anything to Mike coming in and say, hey, what do you think about X? And hash it out, and especially like the evangelical property, what a nightmare that was for 2 years. So.
Right. Well, I think we should move on our agenda because we have some things to report. I'm a little concerned about what's happening at the Concord Community Center tonight. And so Mark is not here yet, and he's gonna try to get it about 7. At least we're packed with people signing up to, anyway. Vanessa, I'm gonna ask you, would you, since Joseph isn't here and we've been talking about land use and we'll move on.
Okay, I would love to have the opportunity to tell you guys an update about the transportation system plan, since it's all related and everything seems to be connected. I'm a volunteer, for the record, for the transportation system plan of this area, Greater McLaughlin specifically. I actually gave a presentation earlier this year illustrating an interactive map that the county put together, where we went in and made comments on the map saying, these are areas of concern. And if we didn't do it on the map, we sent them an email. Nearly 1,000 people responded. Wow. And at the end, everyone said, hey, my biggest priority is safety. Surprise, surprise. That led the county to evaluate over 500 potential projects based off of that survey. If they built everything on that list, it would cost about $3.8 billion with a B dollars. And you'll be surprised to learn they don't have $3.8 billion. They estimate to only have 633 million. So what they're asking right now is, did they prioritize it right? When I look at the interactive map, I was actually pretty excited because a lot of what they call tier 1, which is, I'm just gonna call it priority 1, are the most likely projects to get funded in the next 20 years. A lot of them were in our area. So specifically, there's one on Oak Grove. And what they'd like to do is, if we all said, yes, this should be a priority 1 project, they would fill in the missing sidewalk sections between Oakfield and River Road, both that way, and add a planted buffer, so just essentially some type of vegetation in between the street and the sidewalk, and also improve bike access near Highway 99. So they're just asking us to take a look at those projects. If you have time, there is a flyer. I don't have information for the online guests, but I could try to get that to you later. This flyer is over here on the table. There is a QR code. I don't like QR codes, but for those people who do, you can just take your camera and it sends you to the website, which eventually will lead you to that interactive map. I love maps. I find it challenging to use. So within that same page where the map is, right below it is an empty survey where you can just write in, yes, I think Oak Grove is priority and it should be. Or in my example, I live off of Hill Road, which is very dangerous to walk, and right now it's at a 3. And that means it's very unlikely to get funded in the next 20 years. So I put in the survey, could you please move up Hill Road? If you have time to do that, that's wonderful. Please take a flyer. For the flyer, please take a flyer if you can. There's also an email. I put tsp_update@clackamas.us also on the flyer. I just wanted to say that this is your chance between now and July 13th. That's the deadline. This is ongoing, but this process is due by July 13th. It's our chance to shape the next 20 years of transportation in the Oak Grove area. So I hope that you will consider participating.
I feel like the chat there for folks who are online.
Oh, great.
I feel like I wanna plug Hill Road.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because there's 2 schools.
There's 2 schools
And a church.
and a church
And
and retirement facilities.
Did they do a sidewalk out there?
no
In front of that
sidewalk.
church?
I was saying
There's sidewalk in
place
front of the
to
church.
walk.
Yeah, cause that was one of the things that we complained about when they were looking to get that rezoned, but that school or whatever,
Yeah.
it was, the church was, we were concerned with the kids walking.
Yeah.
Because it was so narrow and there was the landscape came right up to the road and there was no place to go.
No,
I don't go that way for now. So
yeah.
it's
Thank
perfect
you.
look.
Yes, they did that.
Yeah, they heard about it a little bit. So.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard because there's 2 humps on it, and it seems like that's the area that doesn't have anything. So the first hump is all vegetation, no bike lane, no sidewalk, and then the next one is just the right has a bike lane. But I'm sure there are other projects it's very expensive, we're talking about the entire county, so I totally get it, but if you guys have time to look at the map and say.
So, Mark not being here. And, he has all the flyers for the community picnic. So just, I wanna, raise everybody's awareness. We will not we will have a meeting next month in July, but we will not have a regular general meeting in August. We will have a community picnic on, August 15th. So that's a Saturday, and we will have it up at our place, up at the Humber Community Center apartment. So we'll get more details to you. We did, I think at our last meeting, we authorized putting some money into that, so it costs about $400, so we can reserve space and we will encourage people to bring a picnic lunch, but we'll have some other things there, and there'll be some games and whatnot. It's an opportunity to try to get people to meet each other, person to person, so all of the people that come online and we can all get together.
There will be no Zoom for that.
No Zoom. And then the other thing is, the Oak Grove Festival, which is this coming Saturday. So, we will have, a booth and, I know that, Dan will be there and Mark and I are gonna be there, but it'd be nice if other people come by and, it goes from 11 to 4. It's on Oak Grove, Boulevard. I'm sorry, I can't say all the time. Mark would be much fancier than what he was saying, so, but we'll have a group, we'll be there. So I encourage people to.
What's your space number?
I have no idea.
I don't even know.
No,
Where they tell us to go.
I was told that we would be near the H-Dog booth, which I think is at Linwood in the center place.
Block the rest of you.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't my thing. He didn't give me a flyer or anything.
Well, the flyer doesn't have booth numbers. If you look at it, it's got rows, but we're in C19, but I think it's pretty close to New Orbit, but I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm.
Walk around and they'll find you.
They'll see this.
Yeah, we have big sign, so we'll be there, and we always bring a map. And we try to encourage people to put we have little houses, you can put your house on the map, so you can see where you are and in the area, and we also encourage people to vote for their favorite businesses or restaurants or parks or things out in the area. And then we actually, make up, last year, Ben did a great job, made up the certificates and we go around, it's really fun to deliver them to the businesses and places and say, hey, you know, we got the award is, you know, people are noticing that you're here. That's another opportunity for us to find out who doesn't know they know. Live in Milwaukee, because
Yes.
we say, what are your favorite places in Oak Grove, and we, you know, bring,
Yeah,
they're not in one row anyway.
yeah.
If you like Cajun food, one of the food trucks that's coming is Bayou Burgers. It's crazy.
Where?
It's just out there, they're out in Estacada, and we've been out. Last weekend before, to go out, we go out probably once a month and eat with them, it's very good.
Okay, well, there'll be food carts and there will be music and there will be lots of people and they always have a car show. You know, people are interested in it. And they have, usually they have a place for bicycles to be locked up if you ride them off there, so it should be a good example.
Yeah.
So, are people aware of the conflict with the parks? Do you want to know just a snapshot about what's going on, like why they're not here and why they're over there, and there's 10,000 zillion people?
That meeting started at 6 p.m. and now 8:30. They're still going.
Well, Mark's not here.
I guess they don't be.
Where's this meeting?
Sounds like a problem.
It's at the Concord Community.
Oh, the conference.
So, yeah, no, I mean, again, it's one of the issues that happens because we're an unincorporated area and we're linked with a city, the city of Milwaukee in the North Plaquemines Parks and Recreation District. So it's, you know, you listen to people, you know, Milwaukee has more parks than any of the other sub-districts. And yet the sub-districts are all divided up into groups that are about 22,000 people population. Some of the sub-district 4 has 4 parks, there's 16 in Milwaukee. I mean, so there's a disparity in how the money flows. The other issue I was listening that I didn't know about was that the city of Milwaukee gets $1.5 million from the Metro for their parks. And then the county, the Metro also gives NCPRD 4.5 million, but that's divided among all 5 districts. So Milwaukee gets their own 1.5, and they get part of the other 5, you know. So people are feeling, you know, stressed up there, you know, saying that they feel like the unincorporated area doesn't get their appropriate
share.
What would it take to be incorporated?
Oh,
Well, I tell you what.
I will give you, there's a group called the Oak Lodge Governance Project, they have a website, I can, you know, pass that.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of, you know, over time, people thought about it, like Jennifer said, you know, people are concerned about taxes, but that's not the only thing, I mean, I think people are just concerned that, you know, the big change. And the truth is, we pay taxes out here that are fairly comparable to some of what people pay that live in cities. We just don't have the services in the same way. And while, you know, we have an urban area with a rural government. So if we were a city and we had 5 commissioners, they would all live in Oak Grove. As it is, we have one of the county commissioners lives in Oak Grove, but our direct leadership body, our direct governing body is the Board of County Commissioners, and only one of them lives here. So that's the change. It makes it harder for people to focus here. So yeah, people don't want to look about it.
And I assume we'd have to have things like mayors.
Hmm?
We'd have to have things like mayors. So instead of being county commissioners, we'd have, just like a city has a mayor or a city council, and so you'd have to establish a different government, right?
Right,
And a
and
charter.
a local planning department, you know, that might work with the county, but it's you know, so you have feet on the ground right here, people that are familiar with it.
Which commissioner was?
Paul's house.
Paul's house?
But let's be clear, that's just a coincidence, there's no requirement that the commissioner lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
we're
what
lucky.
Yeah, we're lucky as a CPO. We could say our CPO has a commissioner. Jennings Lodge, Jennings Lodge doesn't have a commissioner that lives in their area or some of the. So.
So there's been a lot going on, but you guys haven't come to the meeting, so you know, yeah, that's some of these people have done a lot of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
Valerie, Chips was back here for a while.
Yeah.
Oh my God, and the light rail. Meeting after meeting after meeting, trying to contractors and stuff. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so.
And because the other fellow's not here, Fred was here. Is responsible for the sidewalks going in up on Chips.
Yeah.
And decided it even, and the crosswalks on the McLaughlin. He's worked his butt off for 10 years.
Vanessa, you had something you wanted to add?
I was just curious because I wasn't here last month. Did we already share the foundation's donation to the NCPRD?
I'm sorry.
Did we already share the donation to NCPRD? The funds, the friends of the.
So the Friends of, which is separate from this organization, the Friends of Oak Grove Community Council is a separately incorporated 501c3. And Mark and I happen to be on that, we're part of that. And we've delivered a $20,000 check to NCPRD.
I just didn't know if
But we wanted their meeting to start off with on a positive note. And we lobbied to get them to allow us to do the presentation. It was going to be the first presentation after the community input. And we thought we would never get out of there. So
You might have been right.
yeah, so they did let us go first, and I know that Chair Roberts was happy, everybody was happy that the meeting started on a happy note. So, yeah, and that was kind of fun, and the Friends of Oak Grove Community Council will be doing the second annual fundraiser for the Heart of the Community on October 10th. So that is October 9th, and we're gonna do it on October 10th. The idea that as a community, we need to build a community too, so, and we'll do it at the community center, so it should be fun. Is there anything else that we need for the show to be ordered tonight? Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for your patience and your time and your input into the community, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Everybody's going to the